Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, our group will be presenting the strategies for teaching English in bilingual and multilingual for ECE classroom. So, I would like to introduce myself and my friends first. My name is Aisha Ilyana and my friends.
Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Nur Aimi Syairah binti Muhammad Zulkifli.
And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Maizata Akila binti Abdul Halim.
Now, we all are really excited to talk about a wonderful technique that we have put in our slide today. So first, I will be presenting my strategies for ECE classroom. So what is exactly dialectic reading? Let's think about it. A typical story time. Often the adults read the words on the page and the children listen quietly. This is a one-way street, meaning dialogic reading flips this completely. It turns story time into a two-way conversation. The goal is to encourage children to become active partners in telling the story. The adult's roles change from reader into a guide or a conversation partner. You are the you are there to listen, to ask questions, and to build on what the child says. Think of it like the difference between watching a cooking shows on TV and actually cooking in the kitchen with someone. Just watching in passive, but when you are in the kitchen asking questions, chopping the vegetables, and stirring the pot, you learn so much more. So, dialogic readings creates that active hands-on experience for a child developing brain. At its heart, it's about creating a dialogue, not a monologue. Next. So, how does it help in child development? This method is incredibly powerful for a child growth. Years of research have shown that it helps build their language and early literacy skills, which are the building blocks for all future learning. It specifically improves both the words they can understand and the words they can use. It makes it also makes them much more better at telling stories on their own. But how does it does when children are encouraged to talk about a story? They are not just practicing words, they are learning to organize their thoughts, to make connection between pictures and ideas, and to understand cause and effect. This process this process of turning what they see into spoken language is a huge workout for their brain. It builds the foundation for the later reading comprehension and a critical thinking. To make this happen, we use two main strategies that are very easy to use and to remember. The first is called peer sequence, and the second is a set of questions called crowd. Now, let's break those down. First, we are going to First, I would like to talk about peer sequence. Peer is a simple four-step cycle that you can use over and over again during the reading. First, you use prompt the child with a question about the book. You might point to a picture and ask, "What do you see here?" When the child answers, you evaluate what they say with positive feedback, like "that is right" or "what a good observation." Then, you can expand on their answer. This is a key step. If they say dog, you add more detail and say, "Yes, it's a big brown dog running in the grass." Finally, you ask the child to repeat the new, longer phrase. You can say, "Can you say big brown dog?" What's so wonderful about this cycle is that it validates the child contribution. It tells them your words matter and I'm listening. This builds their confidence just as much as it builds their vocabulary. It is a very positive and encouraging interaction. Next, this is the crowd questions. Crowd is a helpful acronym that reminds us of the five different types of questions we can ask to spark conversation. C is for um, C is for completion. You let the child fill in the blank in a familiar rhyme or story. For example, the wheels on the bus go, and they will happily shout round and round. Next, R is for recall. You ask them to remember something that happened earlier in the story. This helps to build their memory and comprehension skill. The third one is O. O is for open-ended questions. These are probably the most powerful questions because there are no single right or wrong answer. You can ask, tell me what you think. Tell me what you think is happening on this page. This invites the children to share their own unique perspective and imaginations. And the second last is W. W stands for word question, which stands who, what, where, and why. These are excellent for building vocabulary and understanding the basic elements of a story. And finally, it's a D is for distancing. This is a key step for building empathy. You connect the story to the child's own life, asking something like, this character feels sad. Have you ever felt sad like that? This makes the story much more than just a word on a page, and it becomes part of their own emotional experience. Next slide. Of course, this is not one size fits all method. It is crucial to adapt your own style to each child. So, for younger children or beginners, you will want to use simpler prompts like pointing to a picture and asking, what is that? And for older, more verbal children, you can ask more complex and open ended questions that really make them think. Beyond just age, we can also adapt to a child's personality. If a child if a child is shy, you might start with more completion questions to build their confidence. If a child is really interested in dinosaurs, you can focus on your question on dinosaurs in the books. The key is to be flexible and follow the child's leads. This approach is also fantastic for children mm, learning English as a new language. It creates a friendly, low pressure environment for them to practice speaking. You can even use their home language as a bridge. For example, if a child speaking Malay says kucing, you can affirm their contribution and say, yes, the kucing is sleeping. In English, we can say the cat is sleeping. It respects their language and helps them connect what they already knows to the new words. So now, for dialogic reading to be truly effective, we must use the right books. It is incredibly important to use books that reflect the wonderful diversity of our world. So why does it matter so much? Because children need to see themselves in the stories they read. And there are a couple of challenges here. The first is finding authentic book. We must avoid books that contain stereotypes or inaccurate information, as these can teach children harmful ideas. The best books are often called own voice books, where the author is writing from their own culture and lived experience. When a child from a minority group sees a character who looks like them and share their experience, it sends a powerful message. Like, you are important, so your stories matters. And for all other children, this book opened a window to the world, building respect, curiosity, and empathy. So the second challenge, of course, is that teachers and parents often lack access to these books or the support they need to use them effectively. Next. So, to bring it all together, dialogic reading is a simple but profound shift in how we approach story time. It is a proven powerful method for boosting a child's listening, speaking, and vocabulary skills. It is success really depends on two key factors. First, the skill of the adult in leading a warm and interactive conversation using tools like peers and crowd. And second, the careful and thoughtful selection of authentic, diverse, and multicultural books. When we combine these two things, we are doing so much more than just teaching a child how to read. So we are teaching them how to think, how to express themselves, and how to connect with others. So we are helping to raise children who are kinder, more curious, and more understanding citizens of our diverse world. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. For now, I would be happy to pass my presentation to Maizatul Akilah.
Thank you, Aisha. So now I'll be sharing one of the strategies that I've chosen, which is visual aids. I think personally, visual aids are very helpful in supporting young learners in learning English effectively. So, in bilingual or multilingual preschool classrooms, children come from different language backgrounds. So, to help them understand and learn English, teachers must use strategies that are clear and inclusive. One of the best strategies, personally, is using visual aids. Next slide. So, what is visual aids? Visual aids are teaching tools that present information through images or visuals. Visual aids include pictures, diagrams, videos, infographics, flashcards, and realia, which is real objects. They help children understand better by combining words with images. When children see and hear at the same time, it becomes easier for them to remember and learn new language. Next slide, please. Okay, the first step in language learning is listening. For, for preschoolers, listening alone is not enough. They need visual support to understand what they hear. Listening is a crucial step in acquiring a new language, especially for bilingual and multilingual preschoolers. At this stage, children rely on to contextual cues to understand what they hear. Visual aids such as flashcards, braille, and picture books provide clear representations of spoken words, helping learners associate unfamiliar sounds with meaning. For example, when a teacher says apple while showing the object, the child connects the word with its visual form. Repeated exposure to such forms strengthens vocabulary and understanding. Moreover, children acquire new language through listening, and visuals make this process more engaging and less confusing. In short, visual aids transform passive listening into active engagement, helping children process language meaningfully while supporting early comprehension and retention. Next slide. Once children are familiar with the sound, they start to speak. Visual aids such as picture cards, puppets, and Braille support this stage by offering cues that reduce anxiety and guide spoken responses. For instance, a teacher might use picture cards showing various actions or objects, prompting children to name them or form short form short sentences like she is jumping. Moreover, flashcards, especially those with letters and pictures, can significantly boost speaking skills by encouraging children to say new words, recognize letter sound connections, and communicate more confidently. In addition, flashcards promote creativity, social interaction, and cognitive engagement through listening and responding. When used in group activities like show and tell or role play, visual prompts also foster participation, idea sharing, and oral language confidence. Next slide. Visuals are also important in early reading. At this stage, children begin connecting printed words with meaning, often relying on visual to decode unfamiliar text. Picture books, word walls, and labeled classroom objects help learners associate images with corresponding words, reinforcing vocabulary and brain awareness. For instance, when children see a picture of a cat labeled with the word cat, they begin to understand word recognition and sound letter relationships. These visuals also support comprehension by helping children understand what is happening in the text through the pictures, even if they are not yet, even if they are not yet able to read the words fluently. Next, visual aids also play a significant role in developing early writing skills among bilingual and multilingual preschoolers. At this stage, many children are still learning to form letters, express ideas, and structure sentences. Visuals, such as story sequences, picture prompts, and graphic organizers, provide concrete references that help children generate content and structure their writing. For example, a teacher might present a series of images showing a child brushing teeth, eating breakfast, and going to school, and then guide learners to write short sentences describing each action. This support helps children connect spoken language to written form, encouraging formation and vocabulary use. Visual aids also reduce anxiety by giving learners something to write about, making writing tasks feel more accessible and purposeful. Over time, they foster confidence, creativity, and foundational literacy skills. Although visual aids are very helpful in bilingual and multilingual classrooms, there are still some challenges we need to think about. The first challenge is that many of the visual aids we use, such as posters, flashcards, or picture books, often show on the Western culture. For example, picture of families, food, houses, or celebrations might mostly come from American or European cultures. This can be a problem because not all children come from come from those backgrounds. When children do not see their own culture, language, or daily life in the classroom materials, they may feel left out or disconnected. It also becomes harder for them to relate to the concept or stay interested. The second challenge is related to the teachers. As even if schools have multicultural or inclusive visuals, some teachers may not feel ready or confident to use them. According to a study by Drasnik and others in 2022, many new teachers say they felt anxious or unsure about using culturally and linguistically diverse materials. Because of that, they often avoided using them. This means children miss out on the chance to learn with materials that reflect who they are. To overcome these challenges, schools and teachers, schools and teacher training programs need to play an important role. First, they should provide more diverse and multicultural visual aids, such as materials that represent different cultures, languages, races, and religions. Second, teachers should be given proper training and support. When teachers feel confident, they are more likely to use these materials in meaningful ways that support every child in the classroom. So, while visual aids are powerful, we must make sure that they are also inclusive and that the teachers are prepared to use them as well. Next slide. In summary, visual aids are useful at every stage. Listening. speaking, reading, and writing. They help children understand better, participate, and feel more confident when learning English. Most importantly, they make learning more fun, visual, and meaningful. Now, I shall pass to my teammate, Ivy.
And now I'm gonna share to everyone my strategies for teaching English in bilingual and multilingual for ECE classroom, which is interactive read aloud. Next slide. For the introduction, interactive read aloud is more than just reading a story aloud to children. It is an intentional, interactive, and dynamic teaching approach where the teacher pauses at key moments to ask questions, encourage prediction, explain vocabulary, and invite discussion. This active participation makes reading come alive, turning a simple story time into a meaningful learning experience. Next slide. In a bilingual or multilingual setting where children come from various linguistic backgrounds, this strategy becomes even more powerful. It allows young learners to experience language in context, hear fluent English, and practice using the language in a low stress and engaging way. Environments are rich in learning potential, but they also require purposeful strategies to support children language growth holistically. Next slide. Through read alouds, teachers model fluent reading, introduce new words naturally, expose children to different sentence structures, and creates opportunities for discussion. All of this contributes not only to language development, but also to imagination, creativity, and social emotional growth. Next slide. Next slide. Let us now explore some effective strategies for teaching English in bilingual and multilingual early childhood classroom using interactive read aloud supported by planned language activities. Next slide. First thing first is interactive read aloud as a core teaching strategy. Interactive Read Aloud serves a core instructional strategy that promotes English language acquisition in a natural and engaging manner. During the session, the teachers reads a high-quality picture book aloud to the class and use tone, gestures, facial expression, and pacing to make the story come alive. Throughout the reading, the teacher pause to ask open-ended questions like, what do you think will happen next? Or why do you think the character did that? These questions stimulate children thinking and give them a chance to use English in meaningful way. They also encourage listening with purpose and responding in full sentences, which is essential for developing oral language skills. Teachers also highlight new vocabulary, explain unfamiliar words, and model proper pronunciation and grammar, all within the flow of the story. Children are more likely to remember and understand words they hear in a story they enjoy, especially when those words are supported by pictures and actions. Next slide. Second is plan language activities to reinforce learning. In addition to the read aloud session itself, plan language activities are essential to reinforce and extend the learning. First, We can use storytelling activities. After the read aloud, children can be invited to retell the story in their own words. This helps them practice sequencing, using past tense verbs, and organizing their thoughts. They might use puppets, sequence card, or even act out the story as a group. Second is children can engage in drawing and labeling. After hearing a story, they can draw a favorite scene and label it using keywords from the book. This link listening and speaking with early writing and helps reinforce vocabulary. Third is we can include a role play and dramatization. Children love pretending to be characters from the story. Acting out scenes using English phrases give them a chance to use expressive language and build confidence in speaking. Fourth is teachers can incorporate vocabulary games such as matching pictures to words, bingo, or memory games using words from the story. These games help reinforce word meaning in a fun and social way. Last but not least is group discussion, where children talk about what they like, didn't like, or what they learned from the story are very powerful. This discussion gives children opportunities to use language for real communication, expressing opinions and ask questions. Next slide. Using home language through translanguaging. One of the most effective ways to support multilingual learners is through translanguaging, which means using both English and the children's home language in the classroom. For example, if a child doesn't understand a key idea in English, the teacher might explain it briefly in the child home language. This, this helps ensure comprehension without interrupting learning flow. It also shows respect for the child linguistic identity and boosts their confidence to participate. Translanguaging can be also used when comparing words across language. For instance, if the story has the word happy, the teacher might ask the children what happy means in their own language, helping them make personal connection and build vocabulary across both language. Next slide. Now, let's consider some challenges. Why multicultural literature enriches language and cultural learning. Using these resources in bilingual or multilingual classroom also brings certain practical and contextual issues. One of the issues is language mismatch between books and learners. Many multicultural are published only my Many multicultural books are published only in English. This creates barriers for children who speak other home language. If they cannot understand the language, they may not fully engage with the story or its cultural message. To address this, teachers may need to paraphrase, translate, or provide visual supports. However, not all teachers are fluent in every child's language, and this can be a limitation. Second issue is limited access to resources and planning time. Interactive read aloud session with multicultural text require thoughtful planning. Teachers need time to select appropriate stories, pre-read them, prepare questions, and align them with learning goals. In other resources, schools or large classroom with many language background, this preparation may be difficult. Sometimes There may also be a lack of quality multicultural books that reflect the classroom diversity. Third is parental and community expectations. In some communities, there is a strong emphasis on English as the language of success. Parents may worry that using home language or stories from unfamiliar cultures will hinder their child's English development. This can make this can make teachers feel pressure to use only English texts, reducing opportunities for inclusive, culturally relevant teaching. It's important to engage families in conversation about the benefits of multilingualism and cultural inclusion. Last about the issues not is cultural relevance and representation. Not all multicultural books are created equal. Some stories may portray a culture in stereotypical or oversimplified ways. Teachers need to critically evaluate material to ensure they are respectful, accurate, and meaningful for the children. Also, if a culture in the story is unfamiliar to the children, teachers need to build a background knowledge to help them connect. For example, showing real life photos, artifacts, or short video related to the story culture can be helpful. In conclusion, interactive read aloud is a powerful, inclusive, and flexible strategy that can significantly enhance English language and literacy development in bilingual and multilingual preschool classroom. It supports listening, speaking, reading, vocabulary, writing, and even grammar learning, all through the simple act of shared storytelling. By integrating plain language activities, making room for children's home language, and thoughtfully using multicultural books, educators can create learning experiences that are not only effective but also joyful, meaningful, and respectful of each child's unique in linguistic and cultural background. While there are real challenges such as language mismatch, lack of time or resources, and differing expectation from family, this can be addressed through creative planning, collaboration, and ongoing professional development. In the end, stories bring people together, and in a multilingual classroom, interactive read aloud can be the bridge that connects language, culture, and hearts. Thank you for listening, everyone. So, do you have a question about the strategy for teaching English in bilingual and multilingual for ECE classroom?
As for me, no.
No.
So, to bring it all together, we have seen all of the strategies that me, Maizato, and Aimi have shared. So, I'd like to thank you all for all your time and attention. So we would now be happy to close our presentation. Thank you.